Hey, how's it going? What's going on, my fellow fishy fiends? I'm Jacob. This is Triple J Aquatics. I needed to make up a new batch of community fry food. Figured I'd bring y'all along with me, show y'all how I do this. Now, I don't make any of these foods. This is just a combination of different brands and types I can buy locally. I do not endorse these brands, nor am I sponsored by these brands. They're just the ones I like from my local pet shop. By all means, use the brands and types that you like. All I'm doing is making a mix of food that sinks to the bottom, floats at the top, as well as is high in protein. I also use this as a way to use up fish food I have bought that I just don't use that much, but to keep it from going from waste. Now today, what I've got is a grinder. This is a hand grinder. I picked this up at a local tobacco shop, but you can order these online. It just has little spines on it that allow you to crush things as you spin it. If you don't want to do it by hand, or if you don't have the grip strength to do it by hand, you can also use like a electric pepper grinder. This is like $5, way cheaper, and it allows me to kind of stash it aside and not use up as much space. The other things I've got a condiment bottle that I picked up at my local Walmart. You know, something you put barbecue sauce or ketchup or something in. I also have a funnel to help get it into that bottle. And the foods I'm using today, I'm using Bakari algae wafers and some shrimp pellets as my sinking foods. I'm using some Tetra Betamin granules as a floating food, as well as Tetra freeze-dried bloodworms. Both of these float. And then as a base, I'm using omega-1 super color flakes. I'm also going to use up some fluval bug bites, spirulina, and their color enhancing flake. I'm going to work on using up these as my base as well. So the first thing I like to do is crush things up. I'm doing this so that the smaller fish and the fry can eat on this. That is why I also like to use a floating granule. I do a lot of floating plants in my tanks, and a lot of the fry like to hide up in there, so this keeps a food source right there with them that they don't have to go fighting for. All I do is pour some in my grinder. Go ahead and add some of these freeze-dried bloodworms as well. Get those ground up. Make a little bit of a mess on my table. I don't know how loud that's going to be on camera, so I'm sorry. Once I have that ground down to a consistency I like, I'll just add it into the condiment bottle. I find it a lot easier with a funnel. I don't spill as much. And then I continue to do that with the flake foods. as well as the sinking foods. Then I end up with a nice little mix in a bite-sized formula that the fry can enjoy. Works great in all of my tanks. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut camera and I'm going to come back after I'm done filling this up. Okay, so now that I have all the foods that needed to be ground up and into the holder, you see a nice little colorful change in layers there, like the old sand art. So in this case, because I had the fluval bug bite stuff to use up, this is a total of 5 different foods that comprise about 50% of this batch. I will be using my overall community flake food of choice to finish it off. For these dry flakes, they break up real easy, so all I do is use a straw and mash it around in there. It also helps get all this mixed up. So I will pour some in there. Get that broken down and in. Get that broken up. And I'll just continue to do that until it's most of the way full. I like to leave a little bit of room at the top so that I can shake it up real well. We have a nice community mix of food. Good little mix of several different types. So all I did once I had it filled up, I put the cap on it and just shook it up a bunch to mix it all up. Get it nice and stirred around in there. A couple things to keep in mind. If you're going to do this, make sure you're doing foods that will actually be eaten in your tank. If all you have is top feeders, you don't need any sinking food, vice versa. Anything that doesn't get eaten will just rot in your tank, so you definitely want to make sure that you're sticking to foods that are viable for the ecosystem you're feeding. Also, keep in mind how much you're crushing it up and grinding it for those same reasons. You don't have to go so small if you have a tank full of large cichlids. This is set up to be fed to all of my current tanks. I've got guppies and tetras, betta, as well as snails, angelfish, Chinese algae eaters. Got a whole array of different things that eat at all different levels of the tank. So this works really well for me just to make up one big batch and feed it in all the tanks. If I had a tank that only had one type of fish in it, then I would feed separately for that tank. This would also be good if you have like a fish room or something like that. Feed would be good for that. Save yourself the hassle. Have one universal food. You just feed everything. Let's go feed this to some of the fish and see how they like it. And we'll do an update on the mystery snail egg clutches, as well as a bunch of the juvenile guppies have really started putting on their colors. Maybe we can get some good shots of them. Let's get to the tanks. So first up will be the Angel Quarantine tank. You guys can see how they like this food. You can see they all seem to enjoy it. And now we'll do the guppy and mystery snail tank. They seem to enjoy it as well. You can see how some of that food slowly sinks down and others drop straight to the bottom. Some floats. Works really great for a community tank in my opinion. Okay, so let's go ahead and do an update on these guppies and mystery snails, shall we? Okay, so first up we'll take a look at the mystery snail clutches. We have had 2 more pop up in the last 24 hours, making for a total of 5. That one is up underneath the lip. That's one of the new ones. So we've got those 2 there. We've got both these clutches here, as well as the original first one we saw. So again, that makes 5 total. They seem to be doing really well. The snails look healthy. They're real active. Can't wait for these egg clutches to start hatching and putting out some baby snails. So next we'll take a look at the guppies. You can see some little babies swimming around in there, hanging out, going across them lily pads. They really like hiding out in this floating plant stuff up here. The juveniles from the original batch are starting to really put their colors on now, and they're starting to get really frisky. They're really chasing after these females. I know I've said this before, I'm gonna have to invest in some better equipment, some better lighting so y'all can see these guys better. I think they're gorgeous, but this camera just does not do them justice. Let's see if I can get a few of them to stay in shot long enough to see some of their colors. Really like the patterns on these green and yellow ones. Some that are starting to turn kind of orange and red colored. And I've got a really neat, kind of like a golden tuxedo. See if I can get him to come out of these bushes. He's really after them females. I think this one's really cool. All gold in the front, tail's all black. And I don't know how well you can tell on this camera, but his yellow tail also has some little stripes of red, almost like a sunburst pattern. I think he's just a really gorgeous fish. I'm not really sure, what breeds and types I have. This is just a mutt guppy tank. I threw them all together. I really want to try to make this species hardy again, and I feel like all the breeding out of different strands have just made them really weak throughout the last decade or so. So I'm just going to keep doing mutt guppies, get a nice good hardy strand going, and just kind of hang out and see what kind of patterns and colors we can get to come up. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video of how I put my community food together. Little update on the snails and the guppies. As always, I hope you're enjoying your own tanks. Don't forget to get out there and get fishy, and we'll see y'all next time.